Hey guys, Moldran here. Today I want to talk about my new passion in gaming, the new upcoming MMO Wildstar. Now there's a high chance that you haven't heard about it yet, because of certain reasons I'm going to explain later, but let me give you a quick introduction, like who is behind Wildstar, what it is, and a bit of the philosophy of the game. Now, on Wikipedia, like the developers of Wildstar are called Carbine Studios. They were founded in 2005 by former members of Blizzard Entertainment. And basically Carbine's founders were 17 former lead and senior members of Blizzard's World of Warcraft core development team. And they also attracted like key people from other games like Diablo 2, Half-Life 2 and other successful games. And yeah, it's an MMO, it's a bit like World of Warcraft, but just like better in very many aspects. Now many people think that after like Classic, Burning Crusade and so on, that like the recent expansions in World of Warcraft have been lacking a bit, especially Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. And that's also for one reason, because many of the lead designers left back then when they were acquired by Activision and decided, okay, let's do our own thing with Wildstar. And for example, here you can see they were announced by NCSoft in 2007. And NCSoft was actually saying about the company, this is a dev team made in heaven. NCSoft's CEO stated. And making successful games is second nature to them. But after I did some research about the game, I kind of agree with the statement. Now, for example, here's an interview with with the CEO, I think, of the company. And the interview is really good. Like, you really get some opinions about the game. For example, Wildstar is supposed to be a really hard game again. So it's not going to be like WoW, where, for example, Heroic Dungeons got dumped down completely. It's actually going to have really challenging content, and the entire game is built around progression, getting better, and so on. For example, he says, above the level cap, it's elitist, it's freaking hard, it's not for everyone, and Grandma's never going to make it through a raid and stuff like that. And he also says, for example, new players are only able to fight, for example, one mob at once. And experts, so if you're really good at the game, you're going to be able to like fight 5 of those things, and you're going to get a whole ton of reward for actually being able to do that, while the new players are still like on their way to become better and reach that level. Now I have to like skim through that, like it's all basically worth reading, but I'm only going to point out a few things that are of interest to me. For example, here it says, actually it must be here, about World of Warcraft. It seems like I can't find that yet. But in any case, like here it says, every new game, there's something also that's related to Diablo. He says, every game that comes out, like you see it sell 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. For example, Star Wars, The Old Republic, Guild Wars and so on. People are interested in MMOs, also like action RPGs, you could say. Diablo sold 10 million copies, but people burn out because there's nothing to do in the long haul. And he also says that, for example, also interesting for Blizzard, if we do that too, like not offer enough updates, endgame content and so on, then he says you can say what freaking idiots we are, because at the end of the day it's where the users are, where the money is, where the retention is, and where the game becomes compelling and fun. And that's why I think it's great that they actually plan to update the game constantly, like some other games are doing successfully. And yeah, at the end he also says something else, and he doesn't know how well known this is. In WoW, 40% of the team came from. So it's really like all from WoW Classic, Burning Crusade. Like if you liked WoW back at that point, you're probably also gonna like Wildstar. Now there's some few other information, for example, those are patch notes. Again, I can just quickly read through some key abilities. For example, in PvP, you're gonna be able to level up, and you're gonna be actually as fast as in PvE. Like the XP per time ratio of PvP is roughly the same as PvE. So if you are really into PvP, game is for you. If you're in PvE, it's also for you. I mean, that's something that's completely new in MMOs and has never been there so far. Like, it's possible for a really skilled player to win the 1 versus 3, 1 versus 4 with similar gear. It's possible for a PvP player to be consistently overwhelmingly dominant. Like, this kind of reminds me of games like Dota 2, where if you like are really good at the game, where you completely shut down your opponent and snowball really hard, you're actually able to like win the entire game, or also to some extent League of Legends. And this is gonna have it as MMO. Even esports like is not being ruled out like the Diablo 3 team did. It's also a possibility, like if the community wants it. And yeah, it's also more strategy focused and burst focused. For example, a 1v1 takes around 20 seconds now without dodging. Now there's not going to be things like Swifty's one-shot macro like in WoW, where you would go into the battleground and then suddenly like a mage pops his pump pyro macro or whatever there is nowadays, the warrior macro, and one-shot something. That's mostly going to be about skill. Now PvE gear, there's so many interesting things. PvE of course also is going to be really hard. They're going to allow add-ons, like one thing like recount in WoW is already in the game. And that's something that wasn't in Star Wars, that wasn't in Guild Wars. Like if I play PvE, if I play raids or dungeons, as let's say a DPS class, first I want to know like how am I doing compared to other people, and secondly I want to know, okay, how can I improve my DPS? And if I do like, let's say the same dungeon 20 times in a row, with a recount I could actually test certain things, I could test different rotations, different abilities and know, okay, now my DPS is higher, now my DPS is lower. Now without a recount or damage meter, that many new MMOs don't have anymore, that's not possible, and this game is just gonna have that. So you can also find out, for example, for guild leaders, they could find out, okay, that one guy isn't really contributing that much, maybe we should look for someone else or whatever. Yeah. Now, content-wise, it has Battlegrounds, 2v2 arena, 3v3 arena, everything that like WoW has plus more. For example, one thing that's gonna have the best PvP gear is gonna be actually in, like as it says here, like you get good gear in Battlegrounds, great gear in arena, and best PvP gear in war plots. Now war plots are big outdoor or 40 versus 40 battles, for example with castles, siege battles and so on, like kind of like outdoor PvP that WoW doesn't really have anymore. Like WoW had outdoor PvP in Classic, like maybe one or the other one of you is gonna remember the Terra Mill South Shore thing, which was really fun. But yeah, that's game is gonna have it, and you're actually gonna get the best PvP gear there, which actually makes really sense because that actually forces people to do it, or actually makes it enjoyable to do it. And yeah, I really can't like go for everything here, but there's much more. Of course, they're gonna be EU servers and US servers. And yeah, I was just wanting to give the quick introduction. Now some other things I want to say personally about the game. Now, why haven't you heard about this game? Like if it's so good, why isn't it like being advertised like crazy? Like think back at Guild Wars 2, extremely hyped. Diablo 3, hype level was like up there, extremely. Or even Star Wars was really hyped at launch. But Wildstar is going, like developers are going a different route. Like they don't want to hype the game yet, even though it's like worth to be hyped. But they just don't want to like hype it and then like raise the expectations to a really high level, and then, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work that well and so on. So they just focus on the game now, they focus on the content, they focus on the feedback they get from the beta, they have their players in, and they really try to make the game like really, really good first, polish it, finish it, and then they're gonna start advertising and bringing it out to the public. So it's not like some other games that are hyped already, like Elder Scrolls Online. Like that game automatically gets hyped just because it's an Elder Scrolls game, and they're all pretty amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, as I said, I found out about the game by coincidence. It was just a coincidence I found it out, and I did some research and really like it. But I also found out that like other people, like other players like Kungen, he's also really looking forward to exactly that one game. And I'm pretty sure that finally there's going to be one game again where like all streamers and all YouTubers of the gaming world are like coming together again and playing that one game. Like Kungen, Crib, me, maybe even Wreckful. We'll see like who's going to jump on the Wildstar train if the game is really going to be that good. Now, that was it from myself. I'm also gonna include now a 1 or 2 minute clip of the combat system in Wildstar, so you get a first impression of the game. Graphics are kind of like wow, but it's all about the gameplay, and hope you enjoy it as well. Let me know your thoughts. I'll be back.
Welcome to Wildstar. This is DevSpeak. This is the disclaimer. Go time. In this episode, we're going to talk about what is, hands down, the most defining aspect of Wildstar's combat: aiming. Now, during development, we experimented with several different aiming methods: traditional MMO tab targeting, crosshair aiming, crosshair soft targeting, and MOBA-style skill shots. Each of these methods has its pros and cons, and attracts some of us more than others. In the end, we decided to put together a new system we call Freeform Targeting. It takes the core of traditional MMO tab targeting, letting you easily locate your allies or enemies. But with almost all of our abilities, you can actually take manual control of your aiming to launch projectiles or inflict pure area effect damage. This system ends up giving you moment-to-moment control and a real sense of risk versus reward. Freeform targeting is the missing link. This means that while your enemies can miss, so can you. Suddenly, movement, positioning, and aiming make all the difference to an expert player. Because getting the most bang for your buck means nailing all 4 of these fools. This is also crucial to PvP. The best players know how to deliver their damage while avoiding their enemies. This guy, he needs to get on my level. All classes in Wildstar will have to master aiming. Need a little crowd control? Make sure your aim is on point, and you'll unleash some crazy combos. Tanking? Freeform targeting adds an element of skill to all the basics: pulling, holding threat, taunting, protecting your group. Skilled tanks will stand out. How about healing? In Wildstar, healers will have to move constantly, evading attacks and actually lining up their heals. You'll know a good healer when you see one. To keep things fresh, we have a smorgasbord of different attack shapes. And when paired up with different cast methods, we get a huge range of abilities. That's it for now, but don't forget social media and all that jazz. After all, the devs are listening.